So I got a comment here on the YouTube channel from a seller that has 19,000 sales. They have a bunch of best sellers and they are reporting that they are not getting any sales. And this time last year, they barely could, they barely could go to bed because they were so busy. And what I want to do here is I want to read this comment, and then I want Chris and I to talk about what might be going on, but also what can we do instead of just, sitting here thinking this sucks. All right. So Chris, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to pull this up. And this was from the video that we released. And the title was Etsy's traffic crash after update. What can sellers do? So we actually did a video on that, and we'll go ahead and link that up in the description too if you want to go and watch that. But I'm just going to read this real quick. We don't know this seller, but this was a comment that they had posted, and I thought it was worth bringing it up and also asking you, are you a seller that has had history, you've had sales, and you're noticing that your sales are down this year? Let us know in the comments. All right. So basically this is what it says. Almost 19,000 sales on our Etsy shop. We have not had a single order in 3 days now. Our busiest time of year, nonstop for 4 years running now. I normally can't even sleep for 2 or 3 days. I have so much to do. Nothing, not a damn thing is selling. Hundreds of bestsellers, nothing, zip, zilch, what the, and we'll leave it at that. So Chris, I mean, this isn't the only one that we've received. There's others. And I do think, I've even said ourselves personally, we have seen a drop in sales, right? We've seen a drop in traffic. What do you think, Chris, now that we have this here too? Is this something that's just a fluke? Is this something with the algorithm? Is this because there's too much competition now? Like, what do you think it is?
I think it's traffic related. And that's part of why we did that traffic crash live. That was a live, right? I'm not misremembering or imagining that. It feels like months ago, but I think it was just a few lives ago, at least as of talking about this. I think it's across the board. Now, there are some people who are up a little bit. What we've seen is those are mostly the newer sellers, right? Yeah. It's people who have been around for maybe a year or less, and they're like, oh yeah, it's better, because it overall is typically better than it's going to be in June or July and into the beginning of August. But for a lot of people, for the vast majority of people that we've seen, it's down versus August to September. And there's a lot of reasons for this. I think the biggest one that we have seen is that overall traffic in the Etsy ecosystem is down. I don't think it's the new algorithm update, because there's not a new algorithm update, at least that they've announced, other than the weighting of free or less than $6 shipping, which everybody should have corrected at this point. And it seems to be hitting people that did correct that and didn't correct that to the same extent. So to me, the actual flippity gibbet is that it's a system-wide problem, right? We have traffic down. We saw that they reduced their ad spend by between, I think it was half and 4x, depending on the week period that we were looking at over the last few weeks. Etsy ad spend, so ads coming and driving traffic into Etsy, have gone down, which means the overall pool of traffic has shrunk. I also think, especially in the US, there's a couple other things that are going on right now, like, I don't know, an election and some of those kinds of things, which typically lead to some weird patterns, both in terms of ad spend, because ads cost a lot more. Why? Because presidential candidates want to buy every ad everywhere all of the time. If they rode a truck one time, our buddy Raptor, what was his name? Raptor something. I'm assuming that's a Ford Raptor reference, right? He rode in a Ford Raptor once. They're going to buy all those Ford Raptor keywords, Raptor man, right? So like, whoever the candidate is, they looked at a truck once and they're like, yeah, that clearly applies to my campaign. Let's go buy up all that ad inventory. So platforms typically will pull back. Brands will pull back in October into late October, usually, when that ad spend starts to wind down for the presidential campaigns. And because it's a presidential campaign year, you also have Senate elections and congressional elections and dog catcher and all of those kinds of things. So people are a little bit weirder with their money during the end of an election cycle, and getting traffic from anywhere becomes a lot harder because political campaigns, at least in the US, typically buy all of that up. What we have seen is the numbers are fairly similar for a lot of people, right? Yeah. So when we asked about traffic, we saw like 30, 40, 50% pretty much across the board. And it wasn't that they lost their rank. either, right? If you ranked number one for a specific keyword, a lot of those people still rank in the 1 or 2 position. So that's not the reason. To me, it has to be some sort of a more system-wide thing. But again, we're still waiting to see in here as well. Just based on what we're seeing, that would be my initial assessment, because it seems to be hitting not everyone, but almost everyone, and fairly equally, which would be the world's greatest algorithm update if Etsy could actually pull that off and have everybody be impacted equally. That means they can fix it and fix everybody's traffic by 50%. But I think we're reading a little too much into the adjustments that they made. We should see here in the next few weeks. And it does look like they've already started to kind of ramp that ad spend back up since we made that initial video. I took a look again yesterday morning, and it looks like they're spending a chunk more than they were last week. They're back to about that 50% of where they were at the end of September. I would expect to see that continuing to ramp up, which means traffic should start coming back as well. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay. So like, that's our theory, right? Like everything, but it's like, so I'm like, okay, so what can I do? Right? Like I can sit here and we can have the theory and we're like, oh, that's because of this. It's because of that. It's because of this. It's because of that. Great. Okay, great. So what do? You know, like we need traffic. We still need sales, right? So what do we do? Well, the one thing that we do, and I mean, I've been looking at our Etsy ads are still performing, right? So I'm actually working on like increasing that. So am I going to spend more money this year? Probably. But as long as my conversions are there, I don't care. I've also increased some of our pricing because, well, costs have gone up, right? So why not? And we're not seeing a dip in conversions there. So what can we control? We can control turning on Etsy ads. That's simple. That's built right in. We can also, before I even turn on the Etsy ads, we can start working on the traffic that we do have. How do we convert that into more sales? Right? A lot of people overlook that. They're just like, well, if I just get more traffic, it's going to fix everything. Well, why don't you take the 100 views that you're getting right now versus the 300 that you had last year? And why don't you try to get 3 buyers out of that versus the 1% that you were, converting before? Like, let's focus on those types of things. What can you do to increase that? They give us that metric. They give us that number. And so you're probably asking, well, what do you do? First off, you got to analyze your listing. You got to analyze it. You got to go, okay, are there other sellers that are converting higher than me on your product? Okay, that's where I'd start. After that, I'd go and look at other people's listings that are converting higher and seeing if I'm missing something. Because a conversion just means that someone went there, but they decided not to buy. Not necessarily because they didn't want it. Something wasn't met for them, or they found something better. Maybe someone else had better pictures, right? Maybe someone had faster shipping times. Maybe someone had a better sale running, right? We don't know. So that's why we're big on focusing on the things that you can control. And one of them is your conversions, right? We actually, we studied 25, sellers, or not even sellers, but listings. And we reverse engineered, like, what were they doing? What are things that they were doing that we weren't doing that are converting above 3%? And we did this for 25 listings, and it was a little messy at first, but then we actually thought it would be useful. So we actually put it into a playbook. It's what we're calling our conversion maximizer playbook now. It's about 85 pages, and it has a whole bunch of scoring on it. And it really kind of just breaks down some of the things that we feel we might be missing. And if you want a copy of that, it is $10. We are charging for it because we paid a designer to make it user-friendly, and it's got a checklist and some different things in there to make it easier for you to use. But if you want a copy of that, just put conversions in the comments and we'll send you a copy of that, or we'll send you the link to grab a copy of that. Just put conversions in the comments and we'll send you a link. All right. But that's super important. And I think people are missing that. The other thing that's important is be in control of your own traffic, right? Like, if you have an email list, you control traffic. We know Etsy wants us to drive our own traffic. Why? Because they created this program called Share and Save, where they give us the ability to share our links and pay less in fees. So why not use it, right? But well, how do I get traffic? We build email lists. That's what we do, right? And we don't just wait for a customer to come through the door. We actually do it externally. And so you're kind of hearing like there's some external stuff here that we're taking control of, right? Like right now, if Etsy decided to shut down our shop, I'd still have the email list that I could direct anywhere I want. I could send it to Shopify, my independent website, like wherever I want to send. I could send it to Amazon if I wanted to start there. I could send it any place that I want to. All right. So email is big. I do have a free guide on email if you are new to email and if you want to start using it, which I definitely recommend. Just put email in the comments and we'll send you a copy of that. And that is free inside. You'll learn basically everything that we talk about here as far as email marketing, a little bit of list building. That's all covered in there. And I believe that's over 80 pages as well. That one we're giving away for free. So with that all being said, Chris, I just think, yes, traffic is down. Yes, sales might be down. But what can we do to help ourselves? Instead of sitting here on the sidelines and going, oh, poor us. Etsy's traffic's down. Sales are down. Oh, what are we going to do? Like if you owned a bar, Chris, what would you do? Just sit there and go, there's no traffic. No traffic. I guess we're going to go out of business.
I'd probably be drinking if I owned a bar. But it's, it's making me think of that great Tom Cruise quote, right? Help me help you. Help me help you, right? What we have to focus on is not necessarily the reason. Understanding that it's not something that is our fault, I think, is important, right? Is there an immediate fix? That's the immediate thing we want to go to and say, did I mess up by changing my shipping pricing? Once we get through that and we realize that it looks like it's hitting people across Etsy, and it does appear to be getting a little bit better, at least as of having this conversation, we're starting to see fewer people saying, hey, I'm down 50%. Now they're saying I'm down 30, 40%. Scott, I don't know if you've looked at your stats, if those have changed in the last week or two at all in terms of the traffic starting to come back a little bit. But once we get over that initial shock of like, oh my God, what happened? Is it my fault? Is there an instant fix to this? Or did I click a wrong button? Or is Etsy punishing me? Then we do have to focus on the things that we can control. And I think everything that you just mentioned is exactly where sellers should be focused right now. Knowing that it's outside of our control. Okay, if it's not because I clicked the wrong button setting up the listing, how do I take advantage of all of the traffic that I can get? That's what you were just hammering on. And that's what people need to be focused on moving forward. If it's down for most people or if it's down for everybody, fine. Instead of drinking from our own supply, right? Instead of hitting that bottle of whiskey behind the bar, how do we get more people that are in the bar to take us up on that bottle of whiskey? That's what we're talking about. And that's where sellers need to focus. How do we sell more to the people who are still there? If we can figure that out now by doing something like looking at the conversion maximizer guide, figuring out where we're missing some things that we can improve, whether that traffic comes back or not, which it will, and it already appears to be, we've put ourselves in a better position. If I can bump my conversion rate 1, 2, or 3%, that means I'm selling 100, 200, 300 times more, right? So I'm selling double, triple, or quadruple what I'm selling right now just by making a few small tweaks to the listing. When that traffic comes back, then I'm selling even more because I've then, in a lot of cases, doubled or tripled my traffic. So my big suggestion to, was it Raptor Man, which is a great superhero name, would be to focus on those top sellers, see what is working, see what isn't working, see what the other people in that are your direct competition for those top sellers. We have hundreds of best sellers. Cool. What are the other listings doing that we're not? What is the thing that we can control right now? It's how well that listing converts with the traffic that's there. If we can focus on that, we can find a few small things that we can tweak instead of launching new products or rewriting the title and the description and tags because we must have missed that magic keyword. If we focus on the conversion side of this, it leads to more sales now and a heck of a lot more sales down the road.